Greetings, viewers around the world. It's November 10th, 2016, just a couple of days after the U.S. presidential election. It appears that Hillary Clinton may have won the popular vote but lost the electoral vote. And a lot of people are very upset about that outcome. There have been protests in various cities across America. And in the middle of all this, calls have arisen to possibly get rid of the Electoral College and elect the U.S. president by popular vote, by the sheer number of votes cast, rather than this Electoral College system, which was in fact written into the Constitution. Under the Electoral College system, each state has a certain number of electoral votes. That number is determined by the number of members of the House of Representatives that each state has and 2 U.S. senators. And sometimes this gives big states an advantage, but it can also give smaller states an advantage, as is the case when regions such as the South band together. Then you can have a lot of states with small numbers of electoral votes that actually can swing elections, and that has been known to happen sometimes. And the Continental, well, it wasn't the Continental Congress, but when the Constitution was first being written, the Founding Fathers did this indirect system of election because they feared mob rule. Is that a legitimate concern? I believe mob rule is a legitimate concern. So I don't think they were unwise to do that. I think there was a certain level of wisdom in having this indirect system, which is affected by the population of each state. Popular vote does have an effect. It is a major effect normally. It's just not the final determinant. And this doesn't happen very often, but it does happen once in a while. It last happened when George Bush beat Al Gore with the popular vote, but well, actually Al Gore won the popular vote, but George Bush won the electoral vote. And now apparently it has happened again. And so a lot of people have started calling for doing away with the Electoral College. Well, I'm going to explain to you why that's basically impossible. The Electoral College system is written into the United States Constitution. That means that in order to change it, it would be necessary to amend the Constitution. So the procedure for amending the Constitution is that 2/3 of both houses, that is 2/3 of the Senate and 2/3 of the House, first have to approve a constitutional amendment. In the Senate, that's 67 votes, and the House of Representatives, it's 290 votes, if I have figured that correctly. So a constitutional amendment must pass 2/3 of both houses of Congress. Now here's the thing. Nobody is ever going to get a 2/3 majority in the United States Congress. No party can get a 2/3 majority. You're never going to have a 2/3 Democratic or a 2/3 Republican majority in the House or in the U.S. Senate. The country is not that united, and there's no reason to think that it ever will be. 290 votes in the House, 67 votes in the Senate. When one party benefits from the system or the other party benefits from the system, that's just not going to happen. Getting a 2/3 majority in both houses is essentially impossible, but let's say that it did happen and 2/3 of both houses did pass a constitutional amendment. Then that constitutional amendment has to be ratified by the state legislatures of, I believe, 2/3 of the states. I think it is 38 states. Well, I'm not sure if it's 2/3 or 3/4, but it's a very high number. You have to have an extremely large number of states where the legislatures of those states ratify those constitutional amendments. And there's no way that one party is going to be able to do that. 38 states, and most of them controlled by the Republican Party, which has benefited from the Electoral College, and there's no possibility that Democrats are going to get control of, I believe, 38 states. You see, it's basically impossible because it's a supermajority of Congress and a supermajority of the states, and nobody's going to get that kind of control. So the Electoral College system is going to stay. It's going to be with us. Let's just say it'll change on the 12th of never. And that's the reason I never paid a lot of attention to Citizens United. because that case would apparently take a constitutional amendment to overturn that. It would take a constitutional amendment to overturn gay marriage. And you're not going to get one party in control of 2/3 of both houses, and then this ratification by the vast majority of state legislatures. You can't get it done, and that's why the Constitution has been amended so many times, and that's why the Electoral College, like it or not, is here to stay, and it will be here until at least the 12th of November. So if you didn't know, now you do.